Hello and welcome to the second session of the Career Development Workshop by SANC. My name is Arif Ibrahim and I'll be conducting this session with Alba Suleiman. This week, we're going to touch on network building. And again, this is going to be the second week of our 4-week series. In the first week, we discussed branding and resume building. Next week, we're going to have an optional session where we discuss resume, where we're going to have a resume review session. We'll be joined by an HR expert who are going to share her insight with us. And if you come ready with your resumes, we're going to offer you personalized feedback. Last but not least, on the 4th week, we're going to talk about interview strategies. And we'll also have speakers from the industry who will come and join us. With that being said, our agenda for today, the first thing we're going to discuss is how to leverage AI to optimize your resume. Then we're going to talk about networking and coming up with your elevator pitch. After that, we're going to go to a breakout session where everybody will be practicing their elevator pitch. Following that, we'll take a short break. Then we'll come back where we cover LinkedIn and then conclude with your questions. First session. So, optimizing your resume with AI. So, the job applicant journey, ideally, whenever someone applies to a job, they first apply. Next, they get called to an interview. Thirdly, they land the job. In the real world, however, unfortunately, a lot of applicants can't make it through the screening process. And we're going to try to find out why. So from the time you click the submit button when you apply to a job, your intent is to get your resume to the hiring manager. However, what happens in reality is that your resume gets routed to a recruiter who spends a few seconds skimming through your resume. And if they like it, they'll pass it to the hiring manager. And if not, they'll just filter it out. Alternatively, some companies these days receive a large number of applications. So they use an automated system known as the ATS. And what the ATS does, it takes your resume, compares it to the job description, and if it sees a match, then it shares it with the recruiter or the hiring manager. And if it doesn't see a match, then it filters it out as well. So what is the ATS? ATS stands for the Applicant Tracking System, and it's used by employers to filter out resumes based on keywords. Again, I emphasize the term keywords. Unfortunately, these days, employers receive thousands of applications, and it's very hard for them to look through all of these applications. And essentially, what the ATS does, it takes your resume and identifies all the keywords on your resume and compares them to the keywords on the job application. And then after that, it creates a scoring system that sees how many of these keywords exist in your resume. And if not a lot of the keywords on the job description exist on your resume, then your resume, how can you get around that? In here, I have a resume, a sample resume, that has a bunch of keywords in it highlighted. You can look here, Amir Taha is a dedicated analytical chemist. He worked in a laboratory research environment. He did chemical analysis and he knows some methodologies about development and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what the ATS system does that it looks at your resume and then finds all these keywords. And then it looks at the job posting and then identifies all the keywords in the job posting. Then does a matching between the two. If, for example, the ATS system has like, if the job posting has like 20 keywords and you have like 100 keywords in your resume, but none of these 20 match your resume, but versus another person who has like 50 keywords in their resume and the 20 on the job posting match, uh, like do exist in his resume, then that person probably will get the call and you will not. And even if you do have more experience, so it's just you just have to be careful in that regard. Okay. That being said, I would like to give you guys a quick demo on how the ATS system works and how you can leverage it. In here, I'm using JobScan. JobScan is an online tool. You can pay a subscription to get it, but for the beginning, they give you like 2 scans to play with. I've used one already, but I saved the other one to use with you guys. So what I'll be doing here is I'm gonna look for a job, and frankly, I just decided to go to Microsoft, and then a job that I'm interested in is let's say product management, or I misspelled that, technology, and I'm gonna like just scroll through, right? First thing, I want to make sure that this job is in the US. Obviously, for you, can be anywhere. And then I'm just gonna go scroll through and then just find whatever. I pick this one. Product manager is in Redmond. The qualifications are this and that. I don't care about all of that. Let me just copy and paste all of this text. Copy this, go to job scan. I'm gonna paste it. And then what goes in here is my resume. I'll take my resume, fit it in, and then let's see. Okay, I made any mistakes. It looks all right. Now what I'll do is that I'm gonna scan. And then I'm gonna get a score. I got a 42, which means that I need to do better on my resume, right? And if I go back to the job description, I honestly didn't read it. I just went through the job description and just copied it and pasted it. So let's go back to job scan and see what did I miss. So it gave me a score. It says that I should get a score of 75% or more. So, okay, I have some room to improve there. Then it gives me a list of skills that I'm missing. I can see that, hey, formatting is good. So that tells me, hey, nice, your formatting is good. There is recruiter tips. So it says I have more experience than the job role requires. And this is, I guess, it says that I'm overqualified for that specific role. So recruiters may have some, doubt about calling me. But let's look at the skills. There is frankly hard skills and soft skills. Let's look at those. So the keywords that do not exist in my resume are market opportunities, product roadmap, product vision, customer experience, customer needs, customer research. Performance metrics is one that I have. Cross-functional is something that I have. Product management is one that I have. But all of these other ones, the red ones, are ones that I do not have. And they are essential for that specific job. Now, let's look at this one. It says prioritize, accountability, analysis, collaborate with others. These are all things that I may have done in my lifetime, but I just don't have them in my resume. And that doesn't say that I'm a bad candidate, but unfortunately for the ATS, I'm going to get filtered out. So this is the beauty of this tool over here. So when you're applying for jobs, it's not about the number of jobs that you're applying for. It's about the number of good applications that you put in. So if you spend time preparing one good application and make sure that you can get a high score on the ATS, then you do probably have a higher chance in getting that job or getting the interview. Right. So that was the first demo. Next, I'm going to talk about using prompt engineering. So what is prompt engineering? We're living in a world that's, being governed by technology these days, and there's a lot of AI agents out there. Prompt engineering is simply telling the computer what to do for you. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of ChatGPT or any of these generative AI tools out there. You can use them pretty much to create graphics, images, you can create text and what's on, and they make our life much easier. And the thing is that you have to be specific about your prompts. You have to refine your prompts. That being said, I'm gonna show you here how we can use prompt engineering to optimize our resume. So our goal is here to feed in a good resume to the AI, and as an output, would like to get a great resume. Okay, so how will we do that? Let's go to demo number 2. I'll go to ChatGPT, and like I did before, I'm gonna copy paste this role, and I'm gonna put it here, paste it. Then I'm gonna take my resume, upload it, loads. It's my resume. Okay, I ChatGPT. I would like to take a look at my resume and compare it to the job description above. Highlight areas where improve. I'll do that. Pass it to ChatGPT, and then it says, "Hey, your resume is well aligned with the product manager role, whatever. These are areas of strengths that you have." Then it talks about the areas of improvement. I'm waiting for it to finish. Everything that I've already said. So I'll zoom in here. Areas of strength. It talks about my product vision and strategy. It talks about my experience leading across functional teams. But now let's look at areas where I need to improve. I need to clarify investment and trade-off evaluation. All right, so it says, hey, highlight any specific examples where you identified investment opportunities, evaluated trade-offs, and prioritized investments. This aligns with the role's emphasis on driving product roadmaps and making strategic decisions. So these are areas. It says, hey, I have a suggestion for you. I can say something like, I evaluated investment opportunities and trade-offs in AI-driven solutions, leading to prioritization of high-impact features that increase user adoption by 20%. So it already gives me an example in here, but I need to like be careful here, right? So what AI does that it spits out, you ask it for something, it gives you something in return. What it gives you in return may sound nothing like you. It may sound good, but it may sound nothing like you. So you need to be careful there. And also it could be something that it just assumes based off what it sees on your resume. So it's important that you take it, refine it. Like I can take something like this and refine it. And I'll be like, for my experience under Spono AI, can you write a few bullets about how I evaluated strengths about, I have some typos here I need to fix. Constraints about going with a cloud provider. Hosting. And this is something that I've done. And I can ask it to give me something that's well written. So I can see here an example like, hey, I evaluated cloud provider options, conducted comprehensive analysis, leading cloud providers, assessing factors such as cost efficiency, scalability, security, and ease of integration. These are things that I've actually done, but I wouldn't have thought about a way to write them down as nice as like ChatGPT had been, right? So this is one way you can leverage AI to your advantage. And with that being said, we're done with that demo. Uh, there's a lot of things you can use with ChatGPT. You can have a whole conversation with it before I finish the demo. One thing I can say is like, hey, looking at my resume, what roles do you think I may qualify for? Right? This may help you if you're like, I don't know what to do with my life. I have a bunch of experience. I'm gonna write it down on a resume and then pass it down to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT looks at my resume and it says, hey, you can be a product manager. You can do an AI product manager. You can do technical product management, program management. You can do startup, founding AI solutions architect. And all of these are based on things that are written on my resume. I can tailor my resume to reflect different experiences. And when I do that, ChatGPT may give me a totally different output. So if you have a resume and you don't know where to start, you can just like start with ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives you free access to some features, but also it has a subscription version of it as well. So you can go with whichever that works for you. That being said, I'm done with my second demo. I'll be passing it to Ala in the next session to speak about networking.
All right. Bismillah. Thank you, Arif, for the AI session. It's always mind-blowing to me what AI can does, and just chat GPT, it almost feels like there's a person in front of you answering all your questions. So this is the world we live in, so let's take advantage of it and use it to our benefit, inshallah. So our next part of this session of this workshop is going to be about networking. So a huge part of your career journey is going to depend on how well your networking skills are. And so, as always, we try to start with the basics and some definitions. So the idea of professional networking is obviously different than other types of networking that are out there. But professional networking is when you build relationships with other professionals, both in your career field or related fields. So sometimes it's not directly exactly what you do, but something similar. Because as we know, the times we're in now, people are able to kind of cross over different careers based on their experience and their backgrounds. So professional networking is your ability to build relationships and meet people who are in your industry or something that's related to it. And there are different ways for people to connect with networking. You can go to the next slide. There is many different ways. Back in the day, all the networking events were mostly in person. Right now, there's many other options. There's like online networking events and digital ones and stuff like that. But the idea is that you want to get into those networking events as much as you can to build those connections and get to know people in your industry, inshallah. Why is it important to network? So, well, before was, so when you're going to a networking event, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. And these are what you need to kind of practice and keep in mind before you attend a networking event. Or also, let's talk about why is it important to attend a networking event. So last week, we spoke a lot about branding and personal branding. And so once you've created that branding for yourself, a networking event is a great opportunity for you to grow it, because the more you attend, the more you would be recognized, the more people would, your face becomes familiar to them, especially if it's like in the same area. So it's definitely an opportunity for you to grow your personal brand and meet people and get them to know who you are. You'll obviously connect with people in your profession, as we mentioned. You'll have access to more job opportunities. So if the only thing you're doing is just online search for job opportunities, when you go to these networking events or when you attend them, even online, you may be introduced to job opportunities that you've never heard of. So, like, because you talk to someone who may know someone who's doing something that you're doing. And so that's kind of like how it starts. So definitely getting access to more job opportunities. Also, there's opportunities for collaboration. So you may be working on a project or you may have an idea, or especially if you're someone maybe like an entrepreneur or someone who wants to start doing your own thing. And so when you attend a networking event, there's a chance that you may meet people with similar backgrounds or similar ideas, and then you guys can collaborate together. And the two people think way better than one person, right? So you may collaborate and actually be able to launch this thing that you haven't been able to do on your own. So definitely a lot of collaboration can happen. Another great benefit is definitely overcoming the fear of talking about yourself, if that's something that you struggle with. A lot of people, um, or a good number of people sometimes struggle with like kind of like selling themselves and like talking about all the amazing things that they've done, just because we're always taught to like be humble and like not to be arrogant. And however, in the job industry, in the career world, when you're trying to get a job, you have to be able to showcase yourself. You have to be able to talk about yourself in the best way. And so obviously, just like with public speaking, we all know, right? Like you can only get better at public speaking if you what? If you keep doing it. So the more you practice and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So the more you go to these networking events, the more you present yourself, the more you talk about you present your elevator pitch, which we're going to talk about in a second, the better you get at it and the more confidence you build. So look for networking events in your area, in your career industry. It could be online, it could be in person. They all work, just try to go. If you're in college, a lot of times they have a lot of career fairs and networking events. When I was in college, I know like we made sure to always go to these events. And even when we weren't looking for a job necessarily, like at that time, because we had another job or we had an internship coming up or we weren't gonna be working this summer, it's just always good to go and meet the recruiters and talk to them and practice your elevator pitch. Um, so the next one is when you're going to attend the networking event, some of the things that you should keep in mind before you go is number one is your dress code, right? So your image your image speaks louder when you go and attend these events, or in general, right? Like we talked about it last week. Said first impression last. So you want to dress good, you want to look professional, you want to give an impression that you're serious about this job, and you're not just kind of rolling out of bed and in between classes and you're just running, right? You gotta dress up, you gotta look professional and be in a business attire. Definitely take your resume with you and cover letters, which we kind of talked about last week. Take many copies of your resume. If you have different versions of your resume for different industries, make sure you take your cover letters with you. If you are in an industry that requires portfolios, make sure you also take that so you can show your work to the recruiters or the hiring managers who are going to be there. If you have business cards, I know some people do them as early as college. Even when they're in college, they'll just have a business card with like their name, their email, phone number. If you have business cards, make sure you take them and actually give them out to the recruiters. But more importantly, you make sure that you always ask for business cards. Anybody that you talk to at a networking event, you should always ask them for a business card. Or if they don't have it, if you ask permission, if you can follow up with them, or get their contact information, because that's how you're building your network, right? You're getting to meet people and you want to kind of stay in touch with them because they may not have something for you in the moment you guys met, but maybe in the future they can, right? Or maybe, like I said earlier, they may know someone that knows somebody that can help you get a job. So in this just career industry, especially if you're beginning or if you're changing careers or at any point, you just want to like kind of check all your boxes, right? You want to talk to everybody and you want to do everything in your power to get to the job that you want and like never feel shy. And then the last note, if you have talked to like a hiring manager or spent a lot of time with somebody, send a follow-up email or a follow-up note, just thank them for their time. Tell them that you're going to follow up with them again in maybe in a few months to see if they have any job opportunities. It's just a way to start that relationship beyond the event, and continue the relationship, inshallah. These are some of the diversity or kind of like maybe maybe minority diversity networking events that we've seen in colleges or even for young professionals. Based on your background, based on who you are, you may find certain clubs or groups at your company or in your school that are targeted towards a specific group of people. So for example, SWE is a society of women engineers. So if you're a woman and an engineer, there is a club for you, or there is a networking event that's just created for women engineers, right? There is the NASB, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. So if you identify as Black and you're again in the engineering industry, then you can attend these sessions or these networking events. And there are so many. If at anywhere you are, if you're in college or if you're working, if you dig around, if you ask, you'll find some sort of a group that may have networking events that are particular to who you are. And these obviously are more important than the general ones because they're actually interested in hiring a woman who's an engineer, or they're actually interested in hiring an engineer who's an African American or African, because they have all these DEI, diversity and equality initiatives, and so sometimes they're literally looking for specific backgrounds to fill in that percentage, and so your higher chances are at these events, but you should attend all of them, like, right? Don't limit yourself. Try to attend as many networking events as possible, but look for these smaller networking events because they're targeted towards you. And then you have a higher chance of, inshallah, getting the right recruiter or the right hiring manager. And speaking about networking events, we talked about it last week. We talked about that at the end of the 4-week session here that we're doing with the career development, that we're going to have an in-person career fair at our center in Hayward. We told you that the date wasn't finalized. We do have a finalized date. Mark your calendars. Make sure you add that on your calendar. We want to see all of you who are local. And if you're not local, we would love to see you again, or we'd love to also see you if you can make it. It's in Hayward, California. It's going to be, inshallah, on October 5th, 2024. So in about a month and a week or so. And so, again, this is going to be an opportunity for you to come and meet people, get to know them, and build those connections and build those networks so that you can increase your chances of getting a job in your career. All right, so I kind of mentioned the phrase the elevator pitch, but we're going to kind of get to it a little bit more and even practice it and build one for each of you. Basically, an elevator pitch, if you haven't heard of it, it's just from the name, right? So it's a pitch, it's a quick summary that you would say about yourself. And the idea of it is that it has to be so short that if imagine yourself in an elevator, you got an elevator with somebody and you have between the floor you're in to the next floor that it's going to get to tell the other person about who you are or about the idea that you're trying to sell or the product that you created. So it's supposed to be something really fast but very efficient, right? So Wikipedia talks about it in terms of it's not just about yourself, it could be an idea, a product, or a company, but you're explaining the entire concept of it in 30 to 60 seconds, right? And again, the more you practice it and the more you actually have to memorize it, because it's not going to be something that you read off a paper, then the more you actually go to events and talk about it and share with people, then you will kind of like engrave it in you and it becomes more of a natural thing when you're presenting yourself. So everybody should have an elevator pitch to talk about themselves, because when you go to networking events, there's also a chance there's going to be lots and lots of people. And so when you're talking to somebody, you don't want to take 15 minutes to tell them about who you are. You want to be able to be efficient. You want to tell them exactly who you are, look, the strength, your skills and strength, your background, and what you need, right? Like, what you need is the most important part, because otherwise it's just you're like wasting their time. Like they need to know what you need from them. So we're gonna watch this quick video. It's about a little over 2 minutes. Which just kind of breaks down what an elevator pitch is. And then as soon as we're done, we're gonna review it together, inshallah.
Imagine you are at a really important networking session for the career of your dreams. But when people get up to mingle, you suddenly realize you don't quite know how to introduce yourself. Maybe you feel starstruck by a highly respectable researcher. Only problem is, you didn't prepare enough to tell them anything. So how do you prevent this from happening? Well, if you have an elevator pitch ready to go, then you don't ever have to worry about this kind of issue. So, what exactly is an elevator pitch? It is best described as a short introduction about who you are and what you do that you could potentially share with anyone, and about the time it takes to travel from one floor to the next in an elevator. In other words, it's a serious first impression that takes about 30 to 60 seconds. Before you start outlining what you might include in your elevator pitch, you should consider these two questions. 1. During what situation or event do you expect to use your pitch? 2. What strengths, skills, and knowledge do you wish to convey? These two questions are important because the pitch you use for networking will probably be a lot different from the pitch you use for discussing your research. Once you have answered these two questions, it's time to start writing out your pitch. First, write down a sentence to introduce yourself. Then write down 2 or 3 sentences that describe, with an example, your strengths and or skills. Then write down 1 or 2 more sentences that describe, with an example, your knowledge or research. If you want, you can also mention a professionally relevant hobby. Lastly, write down a question you might ask the listener with the purpose of gaining new information or advice. Practice your elevator pitch out loud, since, of course, you won't be able to read it when you use it. Once you're comfortable with it, you'll be set for that great first impression you've been looking for. One last thing. Remember to ask for their business card and contact information at the end of the conversation, as it is crucial to expanding your professional network. Got any more big questions for career-related problems? Visit the Center for Career Development at Wilbur Cross, or visit our website at career.uconn.edu.
All right, so we're gonna just quickly review before we get into the breakout rooms and actually create our own individual elevator pitches. So this is basically the summary of what the video said. So the first thing we're gonna want to write about is 1 sentence to introduce yourself. So for example, I said, hello, my name is Ala, and I'm a strategic development planner at Peace Terrace Academy. Right, just very short, but gets to the point. 2 or 3 sentences that describe with an example your strength and or your skills. So for example, something like, I'm passionate about youth work and community building and have trained and mentored over 250 students over the last 10 years. So I talked about my strength or passion, but I also talked about like examples of what I actually did. It's not just a passion that I have and I did nothing with it, but it's the passion and the skill that I have, and this is how I created results with it. Talked about creating results last week at during the resume building session. Then we will go to the next slide. Then you want to write 1 or 2 sentences that describe with example your knowledge and research, right? So that could be different than your skills and your strength. So for example, I wrote, in my current role, I work directly and mentor middle school students who may have some behavioral challenges and need the support. So I'm also telling them right now, what is it that I do, or the knowledge that I have and how am I implementing it. And then I skipped the part about the professional hobby just because it does have to be, well, it's optional, and then you want to make it as short as possible. But if you have a professional hobby that you feel like it's really important because it relates to the role you're applying for, definitely make sure you add it. But then the last thing you want to add is a question to gain more information, to gain new information or advice. So I put a couple of options. So you can, depending on where you're at, if you're still in college, maybe you're going to ask the hiring manager or the recruiter, which classes or certificates would you recommend for me to better my chances of getting this role, right? Because you're still in college, so you want to be in a better position when you graduate by taking the right classes that they need, right? Or if you're a person who's looking for a job, maybe you want to ask about the culture of the organization. Like, how is it teamwork based? Is it like everyone works alone, right? So whatever is important for you, you want to end your elevator pitch by a question, right? You just don't want to just tell them about who you are. They meet so many people, like you're not going to stand out, but you want to ask a question, get an advice, like get actual information from them, and then you can actually follow up with them on it when you leave and through email and stuff like that. These are just examples. It may look very different based on your industry and your background, but the structure is the same. So 1 sentence for yours about telling them who you are, 2 to 3 sentences about your strength and skills, 1 to 2 sentences that describe your knowledge and research. If you have a professional hobby, it's an optional sentence or 2 you can add. And then finally, wrap it up with a question or seek an advice that you're asking from the person. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about just 2 or 3 tips that you may want to keep in mind. So as we mentioned, the elevator pitch should not be more than a minute long. So 30 seconds to 45 seconds can be ideal, or 60 maximum. Memorize your elevator pitch. You have to, once you write it, you're going to have to say it to yourself over and over and over until you memorize it and until you become confident in saying it without needing to remember what you said. And then know your audience. You may need to make some changes based on who you're talking to. So your elevator pitch may have like a general idea that remains the same, but you might have to change things here and there based on if it's a hiring manager or if it's someone that you're talking to in college or in school. You may have to adjust it based on who you're talking to, but the idea of it remains the same. So I think with that, we're gonna try to do the breakout groups. How